Hey everyone, this is Monty from Barbarossa Lives Game Studio, and we are here to start. I shouldn't say start. We're going to move into a lot more of what the game studio is really about, and that's TTRPGs, specifically solo TTRPGs. I love the game stuff that we've been doing and the video game stuff, and we'll continue to do those. But we're going to move into some more of the tabletop, even though we're going to be using a lot of the computer. Today we're going to start with Ironsworn. Keep a watch out for my Avorian series for Pathfinder. That's going to be a lot more cinematic and polished, more than just me coming and talking to you. But we are using a program here that if you go over to, don't know why it keeps bringing up the help all the time. Pumpkin, if I can spell, my fingers just, I don't know what the heck. Pumpkin press, there it is. And should have had this already pulled up. And I forget what I'm talking about. There, the resources. You can find all of these different resources for his games there. And this one is the Iron Journal. And as long as you're on the same computer, it just brings it back up every time you close it and brings it back up. Has everything you should need to play the game digitally. And all that means is take all your notes and stuff on here instead of on a piece of paper, and then it saves. As long as you're on the same computer, you can actually export it to save it, but it'll bring it back up. So we're gonna take a quick break here so that I'm testing this, and we'll go from there. Okay, so on this program, if you've never played Ironsworn, I would suggest going over and you can pick up a free version. It doesn't have quite everything in it that the book does. And it's a PDF, so it has all the inherent things. I'm trying to flip pages in a PDF, and in game books that can be a pain, but pick it up and just read through it. If you have a group, you can play this cooperatively. You can use a DM, but you can also play it solo, which is what we're going to do on here. And the first thing that you do after getting familiar with the game is you set up your own campaign. So there's no there is a world that he has built, and these questions that we're going to answer today in the opening here tells you how the world is going to be for you to play. This is options that he gives you. If you ever wanted to, you could completely change any of this. You could make your own world. I've seen people do it. We will probably at one point here going to use Roll20 for maps and stuff. I have it set up so that we can do that, move around and keep a little bit more visual of what we're doing. But what we're going to do is go through all these questions to figure out what the world is. And it is you can make it what world you want. He kind of leaves it up to you whether you want magic or whatever. So I'm probably getting ahead of myself, way ahead of myself. So we'll just go through these and see if anything comes up. See if I can make this a little bit bigger and easier to read. There we go, since we don't need most of the rest. So the first one is the old world. So the premise of the game is that you and your people have come from an old world to a new world, and this is the new world that you'll be playing in. And so it gives you a few to start with. So the savage clans called the Skald invaded the kingdoms of the old world. And let me see if I can move this. Can I make this any bigger? I can never remember. Anyways, have moved into the older world. Our armies fell, and most of us were killed or taken into slavery. And those who escaped set sail aboard anything they could find and came over to this land. And that is the one I'm going to go with. Come on. So basically, we are new in a new place. There could be and maybe this what they call, however you want to pronounce it, gold, that could be coming from across the seas, but we haven't seen them in a while. And then iron, which is something he uses in here. Again, it's part of his game. You can do whatever you want, but we're going to do it with the options that he's given us. So the opposing mountains, I've read through these, and please take your time. If you're going to play this game, take your time and really read through them and imagine what kind of world you want. Change them if you want to, add to them. There'll be a couple of them here that we're going to change as just to make it fit the character I want it to fit. And and so the second one is option 3, and that is inscrutable metal pillars are found throughout the land. They are iron, gray, and smooth as riverstone. No one knows their purpose. Some say they were as old as the world. Some, such as the Iron Priests, worship them and swear upon them, and most make the warding sign and hurry along on their way when they happen to cross one. And the pillars do not tarnish, and even the sharpest blades cannot nick them. So in my world, these are going to take a pretty decent hand, because what I'm looking at, I'll explain my character in a little bit. So now, let's see over here to leader legacies. Sorry, I'm kind of, that's the option 1. Okay, so I have option 1. We are the first humans on this land to walk these lands. So that's, as far as we know, we're the first humans. We didn't find any when we came there, just us. Plenty of monsters, plenty of other things there, but we're the first humans to be there. And wait, let me see if that's what I had before the island. Okay, still, we are the first humans. There's another person way back when. We don't know if they're human or not, so kind of the same thing, but we're gonna go with this one. There's something, and to me, that's where the pillars come from. The firstborn in his world are more like elves and fae and other creatures like that. They're not really human, but we don't know where the iron pillars came from. Sorry if this is a little confusing. It's hard once you've read through it to try to separate what you know, and I've gone through this, to make this video not go extremely slow. And so it might seem like it's just helter-skelter, but it will become clear. And if you stay with me for a session or two, I think most of it will make it sense. But this is just kind of a background and a way to get your world set up. So communities, actually I have this one different, and I'll type it in later. The people live in circle collections, more like city-state. They're large enough to have their own division of labor. So there's farmers outside, there's blacksmiths and priests and other things inside. There is a ruling council, not a ruling council, a ruling family, and there's usually a fairly decent building we have made, been here for a while. So, sorry, stupid throat. And that's where we're going to start. But we're just gonna, I'll just leave this here. I have the notes to change this later on, so I'm just gonna leave it blank and then add in that information. That's what the communities are like. And the leaders, as we just talked about, are going to be a family inheritance in each one of these city-states. There is no overarching king. I wouldn't call them warlords. They're far enough apart and they're rather peaceful. I mean, there's the whole idea of them coming here to get away from something that was killing them has, in most part, kept them from fighting There has been some skirmishes, but they're actually over something. In general, they know that if they start this again, that the skull could come at any time, and if they're too split up and too mean and hate each other too much, it could be the end, because they took most of them the last time. The defense, I have choice number 2. Watchers and guards are the wardens are soldiers, guards, and militia. They serve the communities by standing sentry, patrolling the surrounding areas, and organized defenses in times of crisis. Most of the strong ties to their communities. Others, called free wardens, are wandering mercenaries and hire themselves out. And again, this fits as there is a family that is ruling each area, and there is a group of warders, and the warders are a much larger group that have come together. So there's the warders for the city, but they are part of a much larger, almost a religion that makes the wardens together, but they work for each city. They're not just out there, they work for each city, but they can call and help and bring in other people if they need to. So there's again that connection, and this also helps from the communities fighting each other, because the wardens know each other and can talk and hopefully solve most of those issues. And then you have the deal of, not only do you have to decide you're going to fight that community, but you're going to have to prove to your wardens that they need to go against everyone else and, do that. And it's a very hard thing to do. So that way it keeps somewhat the peace, but each community is still its own and has developed some of its own traditions, and it all depends on where they live and what area they're in, and if there's a mine nearby, or if it's mostly farmland or whatever, and we'll go from there. The mysticism part, I have in here somewhere between 2 and 3. Okay, so magic is rare and dangerous. If you wield it, truly gifted. And magic, of course, is through the land in everywhere, and the power is in those who choose to harness it. In my particular character, magic is not as much a part of. What I feel that the Iron Priests are more like alchemists in Pathfinder. They can, essentially, they use the magic that's in the world to make their potions and make their things that they do, which I haven't completely fleshed out yet, but it'll come as we build through this. And again, as you're playing this game, you can make it whatever you want to make it. There's no rule book for you to go back to. The only thing that would be important is that once you've set a rule, so if there are magicians, then there are magicians. You can't then, again, it's your game, but you probably shouldn't just then all of a sudden decide they're not there. But at this point, with what I'm doing in the story, the magic is fairly irrelevant. It really has nothing to do with what I vision the story as right now, so it might come back. And the only reason I'm saying that is, as you're playing and as you're creating and building, you get this blank sometimes, and that's what's in my head, is like, exactly where's the magic coming from, because I don't have a magic system in my head or what should be going with it. I have more of an idea that it's of an alchemic system than it is true magic. If you're taking maybe Pathfinder or Dungeons and Dragons, alchemy is not really magic, but it's not just chemistry either. There's something in between there, and that's where I want to go. So sometime or maybe down the line, if I go to a different community, I might find something different than that, and I'm just going to leave that open, that could be. The religion, I have listed choice 2, The people honor the old gods and the new, and it's a harsh land, and the people are simple, but powerful comfort in the prayers there. So the old gods are who was there in the old world, but the new really isn't new gods. It's a new idea that the gods abandoned them, so now what? And some people are like, well, it was our own fault, that we must have done something wrong, so it's not the fault of the gods. Others can't quite grasp that idea. That doesn't make sense to them. The pillars have created their own thing. And there is enough information, excuse me, there is enough about the pillars and about the glyphs that are on the pillars in this world that there's, whether it was real or not, enough people took that to mean a certain thing and created what the priests have right now, the Iron Priests, what they believe. But it's kind of made up of the old gods, and it doesn't really have a set of gods so much as just a way that this iron stuff is going to work. And again, that's going to be up for interpretation as the time goes on, and we'll see where else we go from there. Hey everyone, Monty from Barbarossa Lives Game Studio. We have here one of our vintage books that's available on the website or at the Shady Acres Market if you happen to live in central Wisconsin, in downtown Merrill. This is the Quintessential Bard. It is a D20 system from 2003. That would be Dungeons and Dragons 3rd edition, as it says down here. You can tell it's in excellent condition. And normally this is $24, but for a limited time, we are going to drop it down to $12. And you're able to pick that up because of a special that you've seen here. Religion 10 now, the Firstborn. So these are our choice. The Firstborn, I have gone through and decided, it was a little while ago, for choice 3. The Firstborn holds sway in the Ironlands. The elves are of the deep forests, and the giants of the hills tolerate us and even trade with us for now. The Ironlanders fear the day that they decide we no longer are welcome here. So again, this goes back to the idea that this group of humans, a rather large group of humans, at least it is now, has been, driven out of their own lands, come to this new land, and for a while they don't see anything, and then as time goes on and as they start to get a little bit bigger and move out and start building these city-states, they realize that the elves are there. They realize that the giants are there, and completely terrified, especially of the giants to begin with. Eventually they figure out, okay, they're not going to hurt us. They're not doing anything. They're leaving us alone. We leave them alone. Definitely not a idea that they want to take over, that the humans want to take over from the elves or the giants or any of the firstborn that are there. But in the back of their minds, they keep thinking, we were already driven from our homes once. We know these people are there. Do we completely trust them? Again, every little community, with depending on how much of a interaction they have with them, would have a little bit different idea, and go from there. And again, all of this stuff is just there to get you started. You could spend days upon days writing out what each one of these little lines mean, because it's a very simple idea that can have huge consequences if you want it to, or you can leave it sit in the background. For the beast section, I chose choice number 2. Monstrous beasts stalk the wild areas of the Ironland. Just your normal Dungeons and Dragons, Pathfinder, any of those lands. There are deer as much, regular deer and bear, as much as there's probably some dire wolves and owl bears and things like that. It just depends on the story. Let it go, let it pick up from what's there. Just by taking the notes, you will know for your own, and continue to build your own world. Just like if the first time you've ever played any of these games, or if this is the first time, you don't really know. This is you being half of an author and half of a game player, is what most of the role playing as a single role player is about, as opposed to somebody else having written a land that you're dropped into and you have all of these different rules, kind of like what you live in the real world. You're dropped into it. The religion you grew up with is probably the one you have. For most people, if you lived in the Midwest in America, it's completely different than a part of Germany, or definitely a part of Korea or Japan. Even within the United States, if you lived in the Midwest, I grew up in Wisconsin and I moved to the East Coast and spent 20 years out there. They're two completely different places. The people act different. The people are different. The way even some of your businesses run is completely different. And it's close enough that you can live and you don't have any problems. But it really is, in its own way, two different places. So that just comes off of, you're going to be able to, you don't have to sit down and make a monster manual of all the beasts that might be there. Have fun, go grab a monster manual when you want one, when you need one, and keep going, and it'll just build out of your own imagination. And lastly this is the last one. So the horrors, which I have choice 1 written down here. Nothing but stories to frighten children for now. And it may stay that way, I don't know. So that's building through what the land of Ironsworn is going to look like for my character. Then we'll go quickly through the creation of a character, and so the main thing I think that I want to take away from this is the city-state area. That off in the distance from my character, there are the elves, there are the giants. Those are places he might end up going. There are 13, I'll have to look at my notes. I think it's 13 iron pillars, and those are spread across the land, and we'll get to it in a minute, but the whole point of this story is traveling and finding them and learning from them, and even that part will grow as it goes, because here's the issue. If you wanted to, you could spend forever. Do you want to write a Brandon Sanderson? Just listen to one of Brandon Sanderson's novels, The Stormlight Archive, and I prefer to listen. It was 50 some hours. I think the first one was 60 some hours. Are you going to write all of that before you play a game? You can't. You can read through these and add some things and maybe spend an hour or two, really getting it down the way you want it to. But unless your goal is not really to play, but to use this as a background to make a world, you need to just take these, write them down in a certain amount of time. To me, it's get this idea of what you want your character to be and make these fit, and then go ahead and play later. And honestly, if they completely clash later, you can change them. All right, so that's what my world looks like. And now let's go into, and to kind of bring all of this together. The first thing that you do when you create a character is you come up with an idea of what you want that character to be. So I've stated this in some of my other videos. When I first started looking at this, I created 4 characters in Pathfinder that I was going to run through the Strength of Thousands adventure path. That's what I wanted to do. And then I started realizing I can't remember the 4 characters enough. I couldn't remember their names when I was trying to make some artwork and stuff, and back and forth. And which one was the elf and which one was the halfling, and was the halfling the alchemist, or was that it just in my head, and maybe that's just a thing for me, I couldn't keep track of it. So I decided what I'm doing is solo gaming. So let's just make one character. And then to make it a little bit easier, I'm going to play essentially the same character, meaning my character, Vorian, in most of these worlds, is me as I picture myself living in a Pathfinder world. I'm much more of an archer, and not even so much an archer. I am not up for close quarters combat if I can get away with it. I would rather solve things with a long arrow shot. I would rather solve things where don't even worry about it. Is there a way to sneak around, to go through and solve this with your brain? And I'm not Sherlock Holmes, I know that, but I would much rather take an extra 5 minutes if possible and sit behind a barrel and try to figure out a way to get through than I would turn around, pick up my axe, and just beat the crap out of them. Just not who I am. I am not a tank. I am a support person. In World of Warcraft, I played, oh no, I can't remember the name of the character, but all about archery, all about, that's what it was. My favorite characters in the D&D Pathfinder worlds are something more like a ranger, although I've been getting into the alchemist, but I still feel that they're the same thing. They're just using a different tool to, they're lobbing in their alchemical potions instead of shooting arrows, but it's still the same thing. Knowledge is really important. So who is this character? This character in this world is is a bastard son. He is Jon Snow of one of these worlds, if you're familiar with those books. Excuse me. What it means is, while they take care of him as a bastard son, he has no life within the ruling family. And because of that, what usually happens, and I'm taking this a lot from those shows, is sorry, my throat, is that while he is taken care of, meaning he's never gone without food, he's never not had a place to sleep, he's been trained along with the other children, he's had all those things of living within that castle that we're going to start in, he cannot ever become part of the ruling family as far as actually ruling. So he has a few choices. He can move into the army, the wardens, and just instantly he can just call the warden and say, I want to be a warden, and that's cool. He can go with the Iron Priests, and okay, that would be cool too. Or he could strike out on his own. They'll probably give him stuff to become blacksmith, an archer, a trader, a farmer, if that was something that he wanted to do. So what I have come up with is these Iron Priests in his town are called lore masters. And the lore masters have taken those little bits of information that they've gathered about the Iron Pillars and created, whether it's real or not, created a thought that whoever created the Iron Pillars, there's something there nobody knows about, and that possibly the elves and the giants are holding information back. So you get these little trickles of information, and the lore masters have for all these years tried to find every one of them and put them into a book, and the book in its own way makes no sense. Without trying to insult anyone, if you really read the Bible, from beginning to end. It contradicts itself all over the place. It has things that just don't make any sense back and forth from a different perspective outside of faith. For instance, one that comes to my mind is that the end times are a dream. And we have anyone who has a dream, how many people would in any way, shape, or form believe that that person's dream meant something? But for some reason, this one person, and not a dream from Jesus, but a dream from one of his disciples, means everything. And we have that same thing within what is happening with the lore masters. They've just kept the information, but not all of the information makes sense. And because my character doesn't have anything better to do, and because he is interested in that information, and because he's not just a fighter, he can take care of himself. He knows how to use a bow, and I'm going to use that within his whole thing is I am going to go and visit each one of those pillars and make a rubbing, which means go find the closest thing to a picture that this world has of what's on each one of those pillars. So he has a little bit of drawing ability that he can go draw the pillar, where it's at, what it's standing on, and then if you take a piece of paper and rub chalk over it, probably did this when you were a kid, and you can get the picture of what's there from rubbing the chalk over, in a way it works that way. And that is his goal. And that's one of the things that you do here in Ironsworn, is you come up with your idea of where you're going, and then everything else goes from that. So over here with Avorian, we're going to run down inside the book. I'll just read the different steps of character creation, and then we are going to wrap up this video, but we'll go through this real quick. And that explanation probably takes care quite a bit of it. So envision your character. We did that. I just told you what it is. I've got a name written down, and it says set your stats across the different sets here. So edge, that's not an actual number. Just testing that it was working. And that it would save it when I came back. So between these things, so edge, heart, iron, shadow, and wits. What do you, and it's 3, 2, 2, and 1, 1. So it only goes from 1 to 3. That's it. 3 being the best. And the way I have put this is, I believe his sneakiness, his ability to move around without getting caught is his highest ability. His edge, trying to remember what all of these are exactly about without going back and reading through the book, and I might have to do that, but his edge, which fits into that area. His iron would be, to me, more about the strength, and then the heart and wit are the one. And because what did I do there? Are we still there? I must have sounds that I had. Yep, that's what it is. Sorry about that. Sounds I have working on my voice mod. Should I use them? All right, so that's how I'm going to split those up. We can take a deeper look into that. Maybe in the next one, I will really dive into what each one of those means. Try to remember to do that. Because even I'm having an issue remembering exactly what each one is. Then the next section is health, spirit, and supply. All go to 5, and I think that automatically has done. Yep, already has done that with your character sheet. And then you mark your momentum at 2, and we'll get to that later. The max momentum here at 10, and if you reset the momentum, it'll be 2 plus 2. So that just is, again, we'll go through this as we play the game when they become part of the game. And then pick 3 assets. So the word assets to me isn't quite what it means in here. they are things about your character. They can be things you have, but they're also your talents. If you were playing Dungeons and Dragons or Pathfinder, it's your class talents or your feats or your other things that make you who you are. So we're going to start, and I already, again, whoops, that's not what I want to do. You can create your own custom asset, but that's not how I'm gonna. How do I get out of there? Close that. Let's try to open up the assets. Nope. Okay, there we go. And then on the edge here, and here, the filter. So we're going to start with horse because, well, you need to get to these places. So that's where that one comes. Get it at it. Horse companion. We are going to put in rider. So just the ability to, use the horse and be proficient, actually using a horse the way a horse is supposed to be used. And did it go in? There it goes. And then the last one, as I've talked about with my character, we're going to be an archer as his combat talent, and that is how we put through this. Now, if I get rid of, I think most of those are explained by what I let. If you take a look at me scrolling through these are all of the different things, talents, rituals, paths, which is kind of like a class, and you can have more than one path. You can pick 3 of any kinds you want. Animal companion of a mammoth. That would be how much battle you're gonna have to worry about if your animal, your companion is a mammoth. So there's so many choices in here to make whatever, and then the ability to create your own. So really do whatever you want with your character. This is just my character. And yep, I guess I hit a couple of these twice. Go there. Archer, whoops, I got rid of both rider ones, so I need to add rider back in. And there we go. So those are what I'm starting with. In my mind, it's a well, we'll go through the couple things where I'm going to get to those, what I was just about to say, in just a minute here. And then we mark up 3 background bonds, and I'll type these in just very simply. So the first, what this is who are the people who made up his life? Who are the people that he has a bond with from his background that I don't even know if they're helpful or, if they're, it's just the people that he would go. So if you were leaving at 18 to go to college, who are those people back in your hometown that you have bonds with, that you would call, that you would go back to see, that you want to continue a relationship with? Not that you will, but who you would want to. And to me, to him, because he wasn't part of the ruling class of that family, it is going to be that's inciting incident. I gotta find where I put there it is. Is going to be the local lore master, the stable master of his parents' area. That's where he learned to ride. That's where he learned to love horses. That was the person who showed some interest in him, even though he was a bastard to the family, and didn't treat him slightly. I mean, he probably still treated him a bit differently than he would have the children, but he didn't treat him as less than the children, just different. So we're going to do the stable master of his family. And trying to remember how I might have to just, I'm not gonna go crazy about filling it in here. Just get you the ideas in your head. The second one is the lore master. Obviously, given what we want to do with the story, the lore master is the person he will be coming back to, giving this information to, helping him figure out what does all of this mean. Excuse me. And the last one that I have here, I don't think I actually picked a third one. Oh yes, just the town of Kel itself. He will want to come back, and that represents any of the, he might have had a friend or two here or there. They're just not making this list. It could change. These are not all you ever have. They are just representing the ones that are pushing the story forward. So the lore master and the stable master, the two people he can come back and ask for help as he needs it to get to be a better information gatherer, a better rider, a better archer, probably from the horseback. Just those things that he would have been taught from those people. And then the town itself, meaning everything that came up and his understanding of who he is and his place in the town, but also the fact that it is what he knew. It might change, but right now it's what he knew. It's a place he's comfortable. He knows where all the nooks and crannies are. He knows where to go get the freshest fruit, where to go get a fresh pastry in the morning. He knows all of those things. That is a bond that he would sometimes feel needs to come back to, that he doesn't have to think or try to figure out where something is. He can just get up in the morning and say, I want this, and know exactly where to get it. All right, so those are the three bonds that you have, and we picked the assets. And note any important equipment. The only thing, you don't worry about the specific little thing. He would have been given the supplies that he needs to get to where they believe the first pillar is, and that's probably enough to get back. It specifically says don't worry about this as part of the game, that those things you would have, unless you write it into the game that you're running out because something happened. He has his bow, he has arrows, probably plenty of them. Let's go with, your 20 to 30, maybe even 50. He has plenty to keep him through. And then because he is an archer, you go back and you pick up your arrows. You do all of those things that an archer does to make sure that he always has his bow and his arrows ready to go. Extra string to, make the bow. The string wears out, he has that with him. So all that kind of equipment. But the big things that I wrote down is a bow, a short sword, longer than a knife, shorter than a true sword, but something that he can fight. It also is long enough, although it's probably bigger than a normal little knife. He could skin animals, he can cut meat, he can use it over a fire to roast meat and do all of those types of things to keep himself going should he need to while he's out in the wild. And then journals. And the journals are where he's going to keep his rubbing, where he's going to keep all of his notes, his maps, his pictures of what's going on. So it's this combination of a cartography journal and a diary and a archaeologist's journal of what they're going through. So that's that's the equipment that he has. Nothing too awfully special, nothing magical, nothing overly, that he counts on or anything like that, other than his bow is his, safety. That's what it is. And then the background vow and the inciting incident. So the background vow is what we've talked about, what he wants to do. And his vow is to visit all 13 of these pillars and collect all of the information that he can about the pillars, bring it back to the lore masters, and hopefully see if they can make some of the books and some of the information make sense. Can he confirm some of the things about the pillars? Can he Maybe at some point in time we'll actually go and take some of that specific information as he finds it to the elves or to the giants. I don't know. Who knows what my brain and the story and the playing of the game will push forward to. And then the inciting incident is he turned 16 and the family doesn't disown him. They don't put it that way. What they do expect him to do is to start going out on his own. He gets a little bit of money to go. He's allowed to still stay in his room, but him continuing to just live off of the family is highly, highly frowned upon. Doesn't mean the cooks won't give him a meal here and there. It does mean he doesn't eat with the family anymore. He doesn't, all he has is this little, and it's not even probably his room. It's probably more of like what warden or the wardens would be given in the castle now, just a room. But he's expected to go and make his own way. And that's usually either as a bureaucrat somewhere in the government, or that could also actually mean, I didn't have a better word, something to make a life for himself, something he would get paid for on his own, either his own quote unquote job or a business that he starts in some way, or otherwise it's the wardens or the priest. Those are his choices. It's a very well-rounded choice. He's chosen the priests, but something tells me he's going to be a little bit warden also. But something, the way it's going to come along is those are, and he knows the wardens. It's maybe not one of his high bonds, but he does know the wardens. He knows of them. He is not a warden, but he's not an enemy of the wardens either. He knows them because they would have been in that with the family, and probably he was sitting, if they were having a feast, he was sitting a lot closer to the wardens and the priests than he was to the family themselves, even though he was there. It just the way it was. So he didn't grow up, a poor urchin. He always had meals. He always had the stuff. He just doesn't have a place in life, and he's about to try to figure out if he has a place in life. So the rest of what's on the character sheet is not really, well, we're not using it. We don't do any of the abilities and stuff. I will have to put the challenges in, which is the vows, and the game has you pick, and my vow is going to be epic, meaning this is the long-term hardest thing he's doing right now, and then we will go through each one of these as we fit them inside the game. And I didn't do a very good job of explaining everything about the game, and it's probably not a great time to get to it, but simply the game is about using some tables they call oracles to make the decisions the DM would make by random rolls, and then you are taking a story and using these moves, which are, we'll go through them because there's a ton of them, but they're basically the major actions that you would do inside a quest, if you're, or an adventure if you're playing D&D or Pathfinder. And the Oracle is trying to replace the DM, and you are creating the story yourself, and it's coming out of your imagination and what these dice rolls and options allow you to do. So I think this went much longer than I really wanted it to go. Yeah, much longer, but I'm going to wrap it up here. Stay tuned and you'll see some more Ironsworn. I'm again working on my Pathfinder, more of a cinematic but still role-playing version, and soon in the next day or so I'm going to be recording me playing Sherlock the solitaire game, and probably either Timfire or Mistborn. So those are actual tabletop tabletop games. board games that I'm going to start exploring and talking about and learning to play and playing, and guaranteed you're going to lose a lot. I played a couple of Mistborn. I want to play some more, and there's enough rules that you kind of learn something each time for a little while. Solitaire game, again, is like Solitaire in the fact that it's fairly simple, but winning, if you're not cheating in Solitaire, doesn't happen all that often. It's just the way it is. So again, trying to revamp the website over at barbarosalives.com. Follow us on Twitter, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, Rumble, and keep up with us there. And I will be doing some more stuff about what's on the shop and highlighting more of my books that are available and the 3D prints that are available, and moving more into that. So we'll talk to you later. Thanks. Bye-bye.